Hello and welcome back everybody to True Remembrance. So I looked up if I knew Analyi, but apparently he wasn't at least the professor he shot in the church while rescuing La. So this had to be a completely different scene. Now if this was in this city or in a different city in the old city, back at his home, I don't know. But I assume it was in this one. Since he mentioned Dexter and the cat being in this church, etc. But wasn't also Maria mentioned? Doesn't this mean that Maria also is still somewhere around here? Or is she dead? Was this mentioned in the game? I'm not sure anymore. But if she's not dead, there has to be a reason why we haven't saw her yet. Maybe she found herself a different husband than Black Iris. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I was in a particularly foul mood when I finally left Aroma. I had no idea what was wrong with me today. All sorts of unwelcome thoughts were clawing their way into my head. It wasn't about the news I'd heard at Aroma just now. Well, obviously I was worried about that as well, but right now I had more pressing matters, like the fact that I'd been walking around in a haze ever since dawn today. You know, actually you should be more concerned about La. First of all for La's sake, but second of all also for your sake. Like, it doesn't seem like your government is very happy with you fucking up, you know? And if La is with your superior, they might think you fucked up. And as mentioned, your government doesn't seem all that nice. Every single time I tried to focus, things slipped out of my grasp. I wasn't in any condition to go shopping right now, let alone do anything else more important. My head felt heavy, dull, and entirely useless. I felt drunk or hungover. My feet meandered about. No rhyme or reason to anything. I eventually found myself stumbling through the shopping district on 6th. What did Dexter say to me yesterday? Have I seen Maria yet? Oh, did he say that? Yeah, to be honest, I didn't remember anymore. Huh. So this must have been in the hospital. So she might be in a coma? She is probably in a oh man, I don't know. Maybe she's also dead on the graveyard. Or maybe she's still somewhere around. But I don't know, I kind of feel like when they meet in the hospital, it kind of indicates that she is in the hospital. So this means probably something like coma, or I don't know. What did that have to do with La? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He was holding a music box in his hands. There was an acquaintance that he had come to visit. An impatient at the hospital. So that was a present. The more I tried retracing the events of yesterday, the more I felt myself floundering. But a present, huh? Now that caught my attention. I started thinking, hey, why not get La something? You know, as an apology for getting her sick. Come to think of it, she and I had gone shopping many times over the month, but I didn't remember ever having bought anything for her. So I started stopping by the various shops to see what they had. Now, there were lots of cute things that girls would like all over the shops, but I didn't really know which one La would really want. Just then, I saw some brilliantly colored hair ribbons in a window display. Yeah, if I knew what color that is supposed to be, like come on game, I'm a boy. It's blue, red, yellow. That's all colors I know, basically. And I remembered Irina, ribbon, hair, La. Stream of consciousness, that way is what they call it. A ribbon, huh? She just might like something like this. Although buying it was sure to be an embarrassing experience. Is there something I can help you with, sir? Ow, bit on my own tongue, sorry. The sales clerk said to me when she saw me wandering around aimlessly through the shop. Oh, yes. I found what I'm looking for, but I'm not quite sure about what color I should get. Oh, a ribbon. That's a wonderful choice, sir. It will make a wonderful gift. I know she'll love it. That's nice, I guess. I was too busy trying to remember which color ribbon she'd worn that night to answer the clerk more fully. Man, Black Iris. Even I remember that. It's blue. You'd think I'd be able to recall this at moment's notice, but I found myself completely blanking on this one. How about red, sir? That's a popular choice. Or perhaps pink and blue. And there's always yellow for the girl who really wants to stand out. The clerk was obviously putting on her best sales pitch, but I didn't hear a word she was saying. Something very, very odd was going on right now. I couldn't really get a grip on it. Flashback? Flashback? Ilya did my hair for me, you like? I'm plenty selfish, trust me. It's nothing, I swear, sorry about that. Yeah, these are from the time we were with Irina, who was called Ilya for some strange reason. And if you don't mind me asking, what color is her hair, sir? Huh? Her hair, sir. What color is it? You know, like black or red. After all, some colors match, some don't. I guess so. Her hair color. Just what color was that? I couldn't remember. What? Are you memory citing? What? Did you just now memory suicided yourself? The clerk sounded so far away, and my head was such a mess right now that I couldn't have answered, even if I'd wanted to. I'm sorry. I'll be back soon. And I managed to stumble out of the store. I picked up my pace. I had to get to the station as soon as I could, and from there on to home. But everything seemed to move in slow motion. My feet, the streets, the world around me. I got onto the trolley. I almost fell asleep several times en route to 8th. I cursed myself every single time that happened. When the trolley finally stopped at 8th, I jumped off and broke into a run up the hill. Snow burst from the sky. Everything went white. It was hard to see in front of me. I squinted. Everything was still there. The streets, the lamps, the houses, the people. Everything but my footsteps. Oh, you know what? You know what? So La probably has some memory side powers. I guess. Probably powerful one if she can mess with Black Iris. And that means, and she always read the books of the guy of the famous memory killing guy, you know? So maybe she didn't want Black Iris to remember. Or it's some government guy like Dexter himself doing that. But can you just do it like with a ranged attack, like killing memories? I don't know what's going on. But I feel like she did it herself. I don't know. With every disappearing footstep I took, I could feel something precious inside me disappearing as well. The snow was falling. It was falling just like this on that day a month ago. Right. I was walking aimlessly up this road, kept going until I hit the 9th intersection, took the turn, headed straight through a grove of trees, and eventually reached an old crumbling house. I found a kitten sitting there at the door. The kitten was so cute that What? A kitten? Oh no. No. I met a girl there. A girl who was standing there in the snow, tears running down her face. What was her name again? I could not remember. Not just her name. What were her mannerisms? How did she get mad when I teased her? How sweet and gentle was she? How warm was her smile? All gone. It was wrenching. I reached out to grab what I could. Fragments, scraps, anything. But my hands were too weak, and my mind was too blank. I had no more strength left inside me when I reached the door. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. All I wanted to do was sleep. Forever. By the time I unlocked the door and stumbled inside, I was moving like a beggar through mud. There was a half-drunk cup of milk and a burgundy-colored binder on the table. I approached slowly, each step harder to take than the one before it. By the time I got to the edge of the table, I had a splitting headache, so bad that I went to my knees. The cup and table slipped and fell from their place. I heard a loud tingling, so the cup shattered to pieces. Pages from the binder flew through the air, landing every which way on the floor around me. The milk was soaking through the pages. There were words, sentences, paragraphs, all written in a neat and pretty cursive script. Everything was still legible, and so I read. Memory site admits histories and physicals, progress notes, discharge summaries, patience. The word black iris kept appearing everywhere. What could that mean? I was thinking about this when my head burst out with pain so exquisite that I almost closed my eyes. I collapsed on the floor. Everything went dark. I was getting so sleepy. I could feel my eyelids dropping. I knew, somehow I knew, if I just closed my eyes, all this pain would disappear. And I also knew that this was probably for the best. Man. But I feel like it's actually, I feel like he's going to regain his memory somehow. I don't really believe that this is not how it's going to end. At least I doubt it very much. So this was really emotional, man. The writer's really good. Like, really, really good. Like, the way she... I think it was a she, right? Yeah. The writer, she writes in a really manner that grabs your attention. And at the same time, she doesn't describe too much, but also not too little, you know? It's like the exact perfect amount of description and everything, you know? Like, I really dig the writing style. I guess also kudos to the translators. I mean, without them... Yeah, it's all... Translators are always part of the, you know, the way something is written. If they want it or not, you know. I blinked. Things were blurry, but I could see that someone was there. A girl. Someone I thought I knew. Maybe. When she saw me, she broke into a run. She skidded to a halt before she'd covered half the distance between us. But then something strange happened. She hesitated for a moment. She pursed her lips. She took a step forward. Another, and another. She sat on the floor next to me. She gently crawled my head and set it on her lap. And then she started, slowly, as if I would break if she went any faster, brushing the snow out of my hair. You should sleep a bit. It'll make things easier when you wake. I knew her. It had to be. But how come? How come I couldn't remember a thing? She continued brushing my hair. Now she was singing softly into my ears. I knew this song, but I'd never heard it sung so lovingly. The soft voice, these warm hands. I went completely limp. I had no more strength. But I didn't care. I was not going to sleep. Not until I remembered who she was. Remember, damn it. I reached out. I felt something. Sharp fragments of glass. Good. Good. I took them up and squeezed as hard as I could. I felt the glass digging into my palm. I was losing blood, but I was gaining conscious. La. Finally managed. Her eyes narrowed. Her mouth shaped itself into a smile. It's okay. I'm right here. So don't be afraid. The dolor. Memory sites. Psychic corrosion. I could see clearly now. La wasn't my patient this month. I was hers. This girl removed the psychic corrosion inside me. Every last trace of it. Every last trace, that is, except for its name. La. I knew her. Yes, I'd met her a month ago, outside of this house. That wasn't the first time. Back then. Oh, are you fucking with me? Okay. I listen first to the explanation. Then I might get angry. But this smells like bullshit twist. But I'll first listen to the explanation. Back then it was still autumn. The air was crisp, the winds were cool. It rained all day and night. On some days, the curtain of falling water was so dense that you could hardly see it past your nose. I could sit for hours at a time as the rain tap danced on the roof and ran down the windows. I was never bored. But a quite different kind of tapping broke my reverie today. So someone was at my door. How unusual. I never got guests. A man I'd never seen before was standing there when I opened up. His black business suit was slick with rain. He reached into his pocket and whipped an official-looking badge in front of my eyes before I could say a word. "Sorry to bother you, sir. Have you by any chance seen a suspicious-looking person around this area?" "What, other than you?" That's what I wanted to say, but he didn't look like he was joking, so I kept my mouth shut. "I don't think so. Could you describe him for me?" "Sure." Then he brought one of his hands to about chest level, drew a line. "A young girl, about this height." "Uh-huh. That's your suspicious-looking person? Not just a runaway or anything like that?" "Something like that." The man smiled a little at this and nodded. I shrugged. "Well, in any case, haven't seen anyone like that around here." "I see." The man turned and walked down the stairs. I watched him until his figure disappeared around the corner, then went back inside and closed my door. Man, talk about a close shave. A suspicious-looking person. You've got quite a reputation. I remarked to the girl who was called up in one corner of my room. She glared back. That was the only response she gave me. Well, that was quite enough. Rain was dripping from her hair and clothes onto the floor. There was quite a puddle in my room now, as a matter of fact. I sighed as I walked toward her. He shrunk back at my approach. Now she was backed up against the wall, with no place to go. With that glare superglued on her face the whole time. Great. What did she think she was? A frightened kitten? She was certainly acting like one. "Don't worry, you're safe. It's just that you can't stay in that corner forever." My floor, well, at least that one patch of it, was slick with moisture by now. She must have been out in the rain in hours. Besides, she was shaking right now. Obviously, that was from the cold as much as from the fear. You're just going to catch a cold like that, you know. I tossed a towel in her direction, but she didn't so much as move a muscle to pick it up. She just kept glaring at me, so I just kept glaring back. She'd been like this ever since I found her. I'd found her huddled in the alleyway behind the apartment complex about an hour ago. I took her in immediately and hit her, as it was obvious that the officials were after her. I had no love for the investigative bureaus, you see, and I really had no tolerance for the black-suited goons. Anyway, yeah, ever since I took her in, she hadn't really moved a muscle. No gratitude, no explanation, not a single word from her mouth. And I was starting to get really fed up with this stalemate. So I walked right up to her and knelt so I could reach her. Before she could so much as try to bolt, I covered her hair with a towel and started drying her off, roughly. She let out an unearthly shriek and screwed her eyes shut. The towel was quickly soaked through and through. Just how long had she been out there anyway? Anyway, this towel was toast now. I tossed it into my laundry basket and sighed again. She just kept glaring at me. Now, she couldn't have intimidated a mouse if she tried, and I certainly didn't care that much anyway. This was kind of getting depressing. Okay, right now. Right now. So first of all, the first thing I thought they would do is like, La was Maria all along. But Black Iris remembers Maria, and he hasn't mentioned that this is Maria, so I assume she's not Maria. At least as of now. So, that begs the question. What has this all to do with anything? Like, how did La heal him and she's running from the government and... I think we can't make sense out of that right now, so let's just read on, I guess. So I shrugged and ran my fingers gently through her hair. Don't be afraid now. And I continued to brush her hair. It was like petting a frightened kitten. Really, this was completely unlike me. I could feel the tension leaving her body, little by little. Now she was cautiously opening her eyes again. And now she was staring timidly up at me, so I withdrew my hand. Feeling a little better now? Then would you mind telling me why they are after you? The girl just shook her head silently. So she didn't know then. Either that, or she was lying. But I really didn't think so. No reason, eh? Or maybe they found you so fetching that they decided to stalk you? I shrugged lightly, but the girl didn't seem to get it. She cocked her head to one side and stared at me blankly. I smiled at this. She blinked. Once, twice, and smiled right back. Okay, let's see now. It doesn't look like you've got the door law. And if I were to send you to HQ, they'd just lock you up. No point in sending her right into the arms of her would-be captors after all. While I was thinking about what to do next, the girl quietly reached out. There was a sheet of paper in her hands. It was so soggy and almost falling apart, so she had been holding it this entire time. Unfortunately, I could still make out what it was. This is my address, isn't it? I murmured. I was starting to get a really bad feeling about this. The girl, on the other hand, looked about as surprised as I was. Her eyes kept flitting between the paper and my face. So you were told to come here, and you got lost, is that it? She looked up at me timidly. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then she nodded. Oh, great. This wasn't good. I dropped the paper onto the floor, screwed my eyes tightly shut, and put my head in my hands. I was starting to get a headache. I'd seen this handwriting before. I knew whose it was. Snaky consonants, half-finished vowels, carelessly slashed out punctuation. This had to be Anali's doing. So was this one of Anali's underlings then? I mean, I suppose this could have been a niece or even a granddaughter. Except I knew he didn't have any family. Anali is the guy who wrote the fucking books, isn't he? Right? No, I think I remember now. Isn't he? Or am I imagining something again? But I really feel like it, you know? Huh. I wouldn't bet any money on that, though. When I opened my eyes again, I found her staring down at the paper, looking worried indeed. Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to kick you out. You can stay here until Anali comes. That is, if you want to. That girl looked lost in thought for a second. Then she bowed deeply. I guess this was her way of saying thank you very much. Alright. Let's see. You might want to take a shower now. You're soaked after all. Can you stand? The girl nodded. When she got to her feet, my mouth fell open. I stared at her until I realized what I was doing. I quickly averted my gaze soon thereafter. She was wearing almost nothing. I hadn't really noticed up until now, because she had been huddled off in the corner like that. And when I said almost nothing, I meant she was wearing what hardly amounted to more than underwear. If there was any silver lining here to be found, it was that I hadn't been slapped to death yet. Tell me, did you bring any other clothes? The girl stared back at me for a second, her head tilted to one side in thought. Then she pointed at a little bag sitting in the corner of the room. So that was all the luggage she had, huh? That bag was so small that I doubted that there was anything worth it inside it, let alone clothing. I see. Talk about a hopeless situation here. The girl just stared up at me. Clearly she had no idea what was going on. Well, first things first, might as well show her to the bathroom. So I beckoned to her. She followed. I opened the door to the bathroom and gently pushed her inside. She offered no resistance. Feel free to use whatever you like. I'm leaving some towels here. I have to go somewhere in a moment now. I'll lock the door behind me. If someone knocks or buzzes, don't answer, okay? And with that, I walked back toward the foyer. I could hear loud crashing noises behind me when I left my apartment. Was she going to be alright? Well, hopefully she hadn't trapped and fallen or anything. Okay, we're still in the past, I think. I boarded the trolley and got off on 6th Street. Yeah, we're still okay. Then I started looking around for some clothing my unexpected guest could wear, but... well, I didn't know much about this. I was totally lost. What was I supposed to do here? No, I wasn't being picky. I didn't care whether she'd like what I bought or not. But still... anyway, it didn't take long for me to go, oh, to hell with this. After that, I started buying complete outfits of mannequin displays, whatever it took. I headed back to the station in the rain, and I wonder if she had finished showering by now. Well, I was probably worrying a bit much. After all, anyone who was her age wouldn't have any problem doing that by herself, right? She had never used my particular bathroom before, but come on. Yeah, she'd be fine. The only thing I knew was, this girl was weird. And one of Anali's acquaintances on top of that. I'd have to be on my best behavior with her. Otherwise Anali was going to have my hide afterwards. 3 years had passed, almost to the hour, since I had first met the man. It was raining heavily that day, kind of like how it was right now. So are we having a flashback in the flashback? Okay. I just received my license to practice in town, and indeed I'd also just received my first assignment. In short, I was a newly minted memory site in every sense of the word. I finally had what I'd fought so hard for. A comfortable job, a steady income, a roof over my head, food on the table. Yet now that it was all mine, everything felt so empty. So I found myself in the back alleys of 5th Street, sitting under the eaves of a building, and listening to the rain fall. It was a nice sound. I could have listened to it forever. And I would have, if not for the approaching footsteps. I had no idea what to make of this. No one came around these parts on sunny days, let alone rainy days like this. I raised my eyes anyhow. When I did, I saw an old man standing before me. He smiled at me and said, "Ah, pity. So sad, so young, yet ready to kill himself. Tell you what, maybe this will cheer you up." Can you read his thoughts? "I'll give you this gun here. Kill me first, then turn it on yourself." I looked and, dear God, he really was holding a gun out to me. He didn't look like he was joking either. Now this was interesting. Interesting indeed. So I laughed a bit. "And who are you?" He smiled right back. He seemed harmless enough, but there was something in his eyes that put an end to my laughter immediately. "Anali, that's my name. A pleasure. Black Iris." I recognized this name. Rather, I would have been an idiot not to have. Thank you, Black Iris. Okay, he really is the old guy who wrote the books. God! How could I forget? Most of the books in the Academy's considerable library were written by him, or someone with his exact name. You're trying to tell me you're the so-called Alpha of Omegas? I'd never have imagined. But tell me, why do you know my name? Come on now. Routine lookup. Nothing to it. He winked at me and smiled. Obviously, someone like him would have had access to every file in HQ, including mine. "I know everything. Where you were born, how you survived, how you became a memory site. It's all there, in the file. You really ought to look. Always nice to know that Big Brother is watching. Obviously, I wanted to avoid being reminded of my past. But when I turned to glare at him, I saw the most amazing thing on his face. His eyes were red, his cheeks were slick and heavy with the weight of tears. So I did the only thing I could do in this situation. I stared. A few seconds passed, and now he looked at me with puzzlement written all over his face. But finally he realized what's up. Oh, my apologies. No use. Watching an old man cry. Waste of time. Don't mind me. I'll be fine. Anali is the father of La. Or at least the one she called Dad in her memories. I bet. Huh. Okay. I start feeling that it makes sense. He wiped his eyes dry and smiled at me reassuringly. But I wasn't reassured at all. This guy was weird. It was only later that I realized that he had saved me in his own way. If it hadn't been for him, I probably would have never left that alley alive. And Ali dropped by my apartment every once in a while after that incident. It was never for any special occasion. He just came, talked about this and that, and then disappeared as suddenly as he arrived. He didn't say much, but it became rapidly obvious that he was always under surveillance. No wonder his days with me were so short. For my part, I didn't think this was all that unusual. After all, Omegas were so rare that they might as well have been living national treasures. Well, if there was anything unusual about the whole thing, it was Anali himself. So, that probably means that La has similar powers to him. Like, if she really is his daughter, maybe she isn't his daughter and she's just an Omega herself or something, like an Alpha herself, you know? Or was it called Omega? No, it was called Omega, right? Yeah. So she's probably an Omega herself. And either the government doesn't want any more Omegas because they are too powerful, or he just wants to prevent that she, has the same fate as he has, because it's somehow a burden or something like that. I guess that would be an explanation, but we shall see. I'd known all along that he was weird, but still I'd never realized that he was a... Eh? I know, but still I'd never realized that he was... okay. Oh, whoops.